suggest America's no best. We love explaining what's best for you, even if we ain't got no clue. Amerisplaining with Walter. Hey!
Welcome to Amerisplaining with Walter. And I'm your host, broadcast legend Walter Brohahahaha. And I'm still sitting here in my comfy chair, in my comfy den beside my comfy dormant fireplace. Weather's been pretty balmy lately. In my comfy cabin just outside of Chagrin Falls, North Dakota. I was lost in my comfy thoughts of a childhood family pet, a cat named Brinkley, that made countless contributions to the mouse cemetery us kids maintained by the back fence. When it hit me that this random memory flash from the past proves that we all may be living in the mouse cemetery of the present. Jeez, I make me laugh. Prepare yourself for a lot of cat references because these days cats are looming large on the minds of Americans, especially the MAGA crows, trying to justify the, let's say, quirky methods of governance employed by the Trump administration. But fear not, I'll try to get a dog reference in before we roll the end credits. And don't forget, at the end of the pod, I have another musical original gem for you, or should I say, another original musical gem for you. There's some crackerjack writing, which of course will somehow be tied to the theme of this episode. So hang in there. But before we go any further, a quick shout out to Romania and Sweden. Thanks for the kind words. The Russians haven't invaded you yet, so fingers crossed. Anyway, let's get started, shall we? Many times Brinkley contributed to our family's nutritional well-being. And I don't mean that we ate the mice he caught. We were poor, but Jesus H. Matilda. What I'm saying is that the reduction in rodent population resulted in our dear sainted mother having to throw out less dry goods from the pantry. Hence, more flour, sugar, flapjack mix, solid bricks of brown sugar, dried peas, lard, and of course plug tobacco made it to the kitchen table for our dining pleasure. And thinking of that damn cat reminds me of the time many years later, I put a can of soda in the freezer to chill it down. Took about an hour later, popped the tab, took a swig, then spit it out all over my New York Times because the ice crystals that had started to form had the same mouthfeel as mouse fur. But don't ask me how I know that. I wonder what Brinkley's opinion of the mouthfeel of the New York Times would be. I know what mine is. The big question, of course, is, will the mouthfeel of Trump's second term be more or less appetizing to the average American than the first? Because after 3 months of this crap, I think we can safely say that the deadly pincers of MAGA stupidity are encircling the U.S. economy and choking it to a screeching halt. But I'm going to have to narrow the examples I use to only the self-inflicted tariff war Trump is waging with the industrialized world. Even so, the list of foreign trade offenders is as long as it is ridiculous. For example, the administration included some remote, uninhabited, unindustrial islands found in the middle of the Indian Ocean, home to a bunch of penguins, no humans. They got slapped with a tariff anyway. Because of all the penguins in the world, Donald Trump knows that these penguins are taking advantage of the American people, freeloading, and they're not even spending 2% of GDP on defense. Well played, Mr. Navarro. Well played, Mr. Lednick. To reference the other numerous administration shit shows going on would take too much time, with built-in redundancy rivaling that of the control room of your average nuclear power plant. I think you'll get the drift. To clarify, Trump, as promised, just applied reciprocal tariffs on imported goods entering the U.S. from the rest of the planet at rates that are out of this world, rising from the depths of reality into that stratosphere of stupidity. And as you all probably know by now at the Rose Garden reveal, he lied about the tariff rates other individual nations charge the U.S. to arrive at new individual reciprocal rates, which, by the way, weren't reciprocal, using a ridiculous formula that his chief economic advisors pulled out of their collective asses. After which, when announced by Trump, everyone clapped. He did manage during his first term to do some tariff damage, but was talked out of most of it by members of his inner circle. And as you remember, they persuaded him to back off a few months later, rescinded after the stupidity factor became obvious to everyone, even him. How were they able to do it? Listen up. To compare how the first term inner circle of advisors and cabinet secretaries were able to preserve guardrails that warped but didn't break, to the Trump second term remedy, we must visit the past. So now we're off to merry old England, back to the year of our Lord, 1377, when a best-selling author by the name of William Langland published a poem called Piers, Plowman, written in Middle English, a long-dead version spoken only by Oxford scholars and Marjorie Taylor Greene. And by bestseller, I mean he sold 6 or 7 copies, handwritten and illuminated by a room full of monks. But thankfully, we're only concerned with a prologue of the poem in which a metaphorical nest of mice representing the nobility struggle against a metaphorical cat representing the king. Now, don't that ring a bell? That's constantly sneaking up on them and metaphorically picking them off one by one, as in imposing bone-crushing taxes. And now that I've got you at the edge of your seat, stick around. Find out what happens after this short break.
Amerisplaining with Walter. Hey!
To continue, the story finds the mice plotting a solution to get the cat to lay off. And by gum, they finally agreed on a plan. Simply put, one of the mice has to volunteer to sneak up on the cat and attach a bell around his neck so the pack can better hear said cat when it's approaching with a metaphorical crazy idea and be better prepared to talk him out of it. Everyone agreed that this was a great idea, the best solution, but where it really fell down was when it came to decide amongst themselves which of them would do the dangerous, maybe fatal job of actually belling the cat. And to no one's surprise, there were no volunteers, and no amount of discussion, strong-arming, browbeating, or bullying could convince one of them to execute the plan. And the lesson of the fable is that one must consider the viability of a plan based on the desired outcome and execution. The first-term White House staff featured some pretty competent people who early on placed some noisy bells around Trump's neck so they could head off most, if not all, of the dumb ideas he wanted to implement. Early on, they huddled, settled on the plan, and implemented the early warning system that held for most of the first term. There was some collateral damage, a few firings, but most of the adults in the room survived. Which brings us to the present. Trump, the forever sneaky cat, learned his lesson, now surrounding himself with loyalists, incompetents, toadies, and sycophants who are not interested in or capable or even capable of sacrificing themselves for the good of the nation, including almost every GOP member of Congress. Because most of them have fallen into the Trump trap, patent pending. Any dumb idea is a doable idea when dumb Trump wants it done. Cynospinacism syndrome has blossomed into a full epidemic. As I pointed out in the last episode, cynospinacism syndrome is a medical condition that presents itself as an utter lack of spine or backbone in GOP MAGA crows. That, my friends, is the difference. Because now we are faced with a cat that springs dumb ideas on us daily with no warning, and an inner circle that has no interest in putting up guardrails to stop said stupid ideas. Well, that's the first cat reference, so let's move on to reference number 2, shall we? Now, Why would memories of a cherished pet from long ago lead me down a dark, dark road in search of a worthy subject for a new episode of Amerisplaining with Walter? The quick answer is, I don't know. And for some of you, the give-a-shitter-meters will be barely moving. But don't forget the important role cat references play in the politics and governance of present-day America. Need I remind you that "they're eating the cats" started as a social media post so ridiculous and stupid that the MAGA crows couldn't help but believe it. And then, amplified by Donald Trump during the presidential debate, they're eating the dogs and they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets, and J.D. Vance too. Every time his master told him to put on serious face in front of a camera, the national outrage machine went to 11, dominating at least a week's worth of news cycles. But Jesus H. Matilda, that seems like such a long time ago, doesn't it? And that's because of the technique used by the carnival barker of many decades standing. It's called Deadcatting. Point to the tires so they miss the dent. Made popular in the political realm by former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, defined as an effective method of responding to damning allegations or events that require a wee dram of diversion. Just point and yell, "Hey, look, a dead cat." And when they look at the dead cat, they entirely forget exactly what you want them to forget. National security advisors forget what the word national security means. Hey, look, a dead cat. Don't just save the taxpayers $47,000 billion. The new tariffs are going to cause mayhem in the world and cost Americans dearly. But look, a dead cat. Oh, the federal judges are taking over, taking over our democracy. Even worse, they're undermining our democracy. Even as I just aged about 4 years there. I think I need some mouthwash and a nap. Just to sum it up, you cause some chaos. Chaos ensues. Chaos spreads. Chaos peaks. New chaos introduced to replace old chaos, till old chaos dies and is totally forgotten. Mission accomplished. I predicted this particular incident of chaos won't even make, and I'm talking about the cats here, won't even make the history books. And where does that leave the Republican, MAGA, and maybe MAGA politicians actually trying to grow the tent before the midterms? It leaves them befuddled and helpless, living a political life they never signed up for, with most of them suffering crippling cases of cynospinusism syndrome, led by Chief MAGA Crow Mike Johnson, who owes credit for his job to falling into the Trump trap, patent pending. But don't think some of them haven't gotten together to find a way out of it. They just haven't figured it out that they have to go all the way back to the year of our Lord, 1377. Just one more quick note before we head into this episode's piece of original music. I've been able to justify two pretty significant cat references in this episode, but I want you to consider one more thing. A lot of what makes today's World Wide Web so psychologically addicting is the way pages are set up on screens. Just gesture up, down, sideways to keep the page moving. A page that never ends. No more clicking, no muss, no fuss. This is called infinite scrolling. Invented by Silicon Valley software engineer Asa Raskin, it completely changed how we consume the internet. I mention this not because this is necessarily a bad thing, though I'm pretty sure it is, but because the Trump administration is starting to feel like infinite scrolling, a page that never ends, issues and events that bleed and blend each day into each other, until it'll all become a 4-year-long blur, and we probably won't remember any of it. To quote from Piers, Plowman, "There is not a rat in the rout for all the realm of France that dare bind on the bell about the cat's neck." And that's exactly the way Trump wants it. There once was a poet named William Langland. His verses never seemed to rhyme.
But the themes that he writ about long ago were 600 years ahead of his time. He sold all his books for shillings and pence that were hand copied out for he. Though 1377 seems a long way back, we still read his wise words with glee. For though still around 600 years hence, if you look back on his story, I'm sure that you'll see that the Trump sojourn was a really crappy presidency. A crappy Trump presidency. A ridiculous Trump presidency. What were we thinking, Trump presidency? You won't believe how bad a presidency. Please give us another chance, presidency. Oh, look! A dead cat!
So, here we go again. The infamous end credits. Well, not too much has changed. That son of a bitch, Blaine Selkirk, he did everything again. He wrote it, he recorded it, he edited it, he did all the voices, he wrote all the music, sang all the vocals, and I'm pretty damn tired of this bullshit. But don't forget to like, subscribe, or comment, because I love reading the comments. Hold on a second, I almost forgot the dog reference. So here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, strap yourselves in, because things are gonna get rough, rough, rough.
News to your home. His ex-wives hate him